It's looking better.
Hey, what's good, everyone? It is Pedro here again. I am in Auckland in front of the museum, and we're continuing the series behind his teachings. And today we're here to talk about a very, very, very exciting passage, at least for me. It's in the Gospel of Luke, in chapter 13, from verse 6 to verse 9. The reason why I say it's important is because I have made some personal important decisions in my life based on this passage. So it's a passage that I hold very, very dear to my heart, and I hope you enjoy it. Check it out. All right, this passage is about a lot of things, but it's entitled "The Barren Fig Tree" in most of the Bibles. So it's about this guy who had a vineyard, and in the vineyard he had a fig tree planted. So every year for 3 years he came back, and the fig tree didn't give any fig, didn't give any fruit. So on the 4th year he came back and said, hey, said to the vine dresser, the guy working on the vineyard, the guy in charge of taking care of the plantation, he said, this tree has never given any fruit, cut it down. And the guy said, no, please don't do that. Let's do this. Leave it alone for a year, and I'll dig around it, see if it sucks some water, see if it gets some life into it. And if it does, oh well. And if it doesn't, well, then we cut it off, and we cut it down. And that's the passage. 3 simple verses. But the thing that calls my attention in the passage is that the guy says, leave it alone for a year. Just let me work for 1 more year. I believe that there must have been another reason for Jesus to say, let me work on it for another year. Or at least to use the parable to say that. You know why? Because in the Gospel of John, for example, Jesus says in John chapter 6 and John chapter 10, he's talking about being a shepherd, the good shepherd, the sheep that God has given Jesus. No one comes to the Father if the Father doesn't bring them to me, and I should not lose anything that the Father has given me, he says in one instance. In the other instance, he says, I've got other sheep from another sheep pen, and I shall not lose any that God gives to me, that the Father gives to me. Jesus is saying that he will not lose anyone. He will not lose anyone. And then God comes as the owner of the vineyard and wants to cut down the fig tree that represents Israel. And Jesus says, no, 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 no. What you have given me, I will not lose any. I will keep them all. Even if it's one, even if I have 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, I will put the 99 on the safe place, and I will go after the one that is lost. Jesus is amazing. And I think that what he says in John chapter 6 and chapter 10 and in many other places in different ways of saying, I think it reflects right here in this passage when Jesus is saying, no, 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 no. Let me work on it for 1 more year. In other words, give me another chance. Actually, the first chance, because they hadn't seen Jesus yet. But give me a chance. And if I work on it, and if it's fruitful, we'll keep it. And if it's not fruitful, then you can cut it down because it's yours anyway. Again, great, great, great imagery. And it's amazing. You could be one of those people who said, well, this is actually finished. All of this thing that Jesus is talking about, the fig tree being cut down, it actually happened in 70 AD with the destruction of Jerusalem. A lot of people will say that, but I don't believe that's exclusively only for that. There might be the case that Jesus was pointing to that, but look at our scenario. We've same thing as I explained before. God had the vineyard, the kingdom, and in the middle of the vineyard there was Israel, the nation of Israel, and God wanted to cut them down, but Jesus said, no, let me work on it for another period. And he's still working. He's still working. There's still Jews to come to Jesus. There's still Gentiles to come to Jesus. He's still working. There's still people to be included, And there's a great discussion right before this passage talking about calamities. They talk about the Galileans who were burnt at the stake, presuming that they were worse sinners than they were, that they needed more forgiveness, and that's why God's judgment came on them. And talking about this city where a pillar fell upon some people. There was a catastrophe. And every time there is a catastrophe in the world, a few years ago we had a series of earthquakes and tsunamis. Here in New Zealand we have earthquakes all the time. Um, and it is said, of course, it is said, but every time some of these things happen, there is always a stupid person that says that they represent the church. I so wish they would shut up and not say the things that they do, because they come to TV and all of these medias, and they say that the reason why all of these things were happening is because God was judging the nation. Oh my dear Lord, shut up. That has nothing to do with it. That is not only um, insensitive of you to say that, but it is also unbiblical. Because in this very passage that we just talked about, Jesus says that we all need repentance. We all need to come to repentance. And in many other passages, Jesus says that God is not God is not fooled. You know, you can't fool God. He's not. He hasn't forgotten about punishment. He's just slow to anger. He's just merciful. He's just waiting for your repentance. There's more people to be included. That's why. So don't go around saying that, you know, it's judgment on people. No, it's not. It's unbiblical to say that. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was an elder of a church, a Brazilian church here in Auckland, and they decided to start a service in English. And I said I can help with that. I think I was one of the few ones who could help with it. So we started it, and in 6 to 7 months, we grew to a point where we had a good number of people. And the leadership of the church is still great friends of mine. Love them. I learned so many lessons with them. They said, well, you've grown enough, and we think it's time for you to make a choice. You have two choices in this. We're going to cancel the service. We're going to cancel the service, and you can either go with them and plant the church. We think there's enough people there. Or you can stay here, and everybody else that speaks English will go to an English-speaking church. And I said, well, I was naive, I was young, I was full of myself, and I said, I think God's calling me to plant a church here in New Zealand. I'm going to go with them. It took me 5 months to have that answer, but I had that answer because at 31st of December, 2012, I guess, or 2011, something like this, someone was preaching a message on the New Year's Eve, and they preached the message on this particular verse. And the whole point of the message was, give it another year. God is not finished with it yet. So, what happened to that story? We went along, we tried to plant the church, didn't happen. Failed. Everybody went away. I thought I was lost. I thought I had made the wrong choice. For a couple of years, I was regretting my choice. I left the church that I was, and I didn't know where to go. The door was always open. I'm still friends with them. Today, I go there every now and again. I preach there. But I was lost because I thought God was speaking to me, and success didn't happen. But giving another year sometimes may look different from what you expect. And this is the lesson I learned. Had it not been for that choice I made, give it another year, I wouldn't have met the people that I have met. I wouldn't have been in the places I've been. And ultimately, I wouldn't be here with you, recording this message, so you get to hear this experience. God worked all things together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time. I hope it has blessed you. If you liked it, please make sure you like the video, like the page, share the page with your friends, and let's spread the message. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.